There is a moment, familiar to many across China and beyond, when the family gathers at the table, not for a feast of celebration, but for memory. The chairs are arranged, bowls of rice are filled, cups of wine are poured, and at the head or side of the table, an empty seat is left. Not forgotten, never forgotten, but reserved for the dead. Sometimes there is an ancestral tablet, sometimes a photograph, but always there is food, real food, steaming, fragrant, carefully prepared, not symbolic, not metaphorical. The meal is shared by presence, by ritual, by memory. And when the smoke from the incense curls into the air like a rising spirit, we are reminded of a truth that has endured in Chinese life for millennia. The dead must eat. In this final episode of the Afterlife Series, we explore the ancient and enduring practice of ritual food offerings in Chinese religion. We ask, what do ghosts eat? How do the dead consume what we offer? Why does it matter to them and to us? And more than that, we reflect. What does this act of feeding reveal about the Chinese understanding of life, death, and the invisible ties that bind generations together? This is not a story of grand myth or terrifying judgment. It is a story of kitchens, of altars, of small bowls carried with trembling hands. It is a story of love. To understand why food offerings matter, we must return once again to the ghost, Gi, that restless spirit so central to Chinese metaphysics. In the classical worldview, a person who dies without proper burial, mourning, or ancestral rites does not become a serene ancestor. They become a hungry ghost, a being trapped in liminality, denied the comforts of the spirit world. Such ghosts are not evil by nature, but desperate. They wander the world of the living, drawn to warmth, scent, and memory, and above all, to food. The condition of the hungry ghost, Egui, was feared and pitied. In Taoist and Buddhist cosmologies alike, the image of the ghost with a bloated belly and a pinhole throat, unable to consume enough to be satisfied, became a symbol of spiritual neglect. Some ghosts were said to burst into flames if they tried to eat ordinary food. Others could only consume what was ritually transformed, offered with intention, purified by prayer, and sent through smoke or spirit mediumship. This belief was not merely theological, it was ethical. To die without descendants, without mourners, without someone to feed your spirit, that was the truest form of abandonment. It was not only physical hunger, but metaphysical loneliness. Thus, food offerings were never just about sustenance. They were about recognition, about saying, "You are not forgotten, you are still part of us." The most common setting for food offerings was the family altar, a sacred space often set against the northern wall of the home, where ancestral tablets or portraits resided. Here, at regular intervals, on death anniversaries, Jiri, festivals like Qingming, Tomb Sweeping Day, and Zhongyuan, Ghost Festival, families offered meals to their departed kin. These meals were not hastily assembled. They were often the deceased's favorite dishes: chicken, pork, fish, rice, vegetables, wine, tea. Each item was placed with care, sometimes in sets of 3 or 5. Chopsticks were arranged neatly, bowls were filled but never to the brim, a sign of humility. Before the meal, incense was lit. Sometimes a priest or eldest family member read out a prayer or a list of offerings. The ritual act of inviting the spirit to descend transformed the food from mere matter into spiritual sustenance. In some traditions, a piece of paper with the spirit's name was burned to summon the soul. In others, a Taoist or Buddhist chant was recited. After a time, once the food had been spiritually consumed, the family would partake of the meal themselves. This was known as eating the leftovers, but not in the sense of waste. The food had been infused with ancestral presence. It was now blessed. Sharing it was a way to reaffirm the bond between worlds. While ancestral offerings fed the remembered dead, the ghost festival, Zhongyuan, held on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, was meant for those who had been forgotten. During this time, it was believed that the gates of the underworld swung open, allowing all manner of spirits to wander the earth, not just ancestors, but vagrant ghosts, those who died unjustly, without descendants, or in foreign lands. These spirits were hungry, jealous, and potentially dangerous. To prevent hauntings and misfortune, communities hosted large feasts in temples, public squares, and homes. Tables were piled high with food. Paper money and clothes were burned in street corners. Buddhist and Taoist priests performed universal salvation rituals, pudu, chanting scriptures to guide the lost souls toward peace. In cities like Hong Kong and Singapore, operas were staged for the ghosts, with the front rows left eerily empty for spectral guests. The living fed the dead, not just out of duty, but out of solidarity. After all, any of us might become one of them someday. The Ghost Festival reminds us that society must care not only for the remembered, but for the abandoned. It is a vision of compassion extended beyond bloodlines, to the very edge of the invisible world. But how exactly do ghosts eat? In Chinese ritual thought, the dead do not consume physical matter but spiritual essence, qi. The food substance remains, but its vital energy, released through incense, prayer, and intention, is absorbed by the spirit. This idea is reinforced by the act of burning. Paper offerings, including spirit money and even paper models of food, are cast into fire during rituals. The flame is not destructive, it is transmutational. It releases the spiritual form of the object, allowing it to cross into the other realm. In some traditions, the food is not burned, but presented under the gaze of the ancestral tablet or photograph. The presence of the spirit, invited through incense and prayer, spiritually ingests the offering. This is why timing, posture, and verbal invocation matter. A meal without ritual is just food. A meal with ritual is communion. This logic is deeply symbolic, but also radically practical. It allows the living to care for the dead without disturbing the physical world. It affirms that intention feeds the soul. Let me step back now, not as a historian, but as a storyteller. In villages across China, even today, you will find grandmothers preparing dumplings for ancestors long gone. A bowl of warm rice placed by a window, a cup of tea poured into the soil. These are not performances for tourists. These are acts of love, repeated across generations. In one Hunan village, a family told me that they still cook their grandfather's favorite pork belly dish every year on his death date. Because he still comes home, they said. We smell the incense. We feel him. In a Taipei apartment, a young woman in her 20s burns paper sushi trays for her recently departed father, who had embraced Japanese cuisine in his final years. He probably misses wasabi, she smiles, half joking, half weeping. These stories are not anomalies. They are the living continuity of a culture that refuses to sever ties with the dead. In the act of feeding, we remember. In remembering, we keep the dead alive, not as ghosts to be feared, but as ancestors to be honored. So now, at the end of this series, after the ghosts of war, the ledgers of hell, the masked judge who strides between worlds, we return to the table. The bowl is full, the incense is lit, the seat is empty, and yet it is not. Because in Chinese tradition, the afterlife is not another world. It is a continuation, a mirror, a shadow that moves with us, eats with us, waits for us to remember. And what do ghosts eat? They eat care. They eat ritual, memory, family, and faith. They eat what we offer, not just in food, but in presence. So let us offer them something beautiful. Let us continue the rites. Let us speak their names. Let us cook their favorite dishes, burn the paper gifts, and set a place at the table. Because the dead are not behind us. They are beside us, and when we feed them, we nourish the living too. Thank you for walking with me through this journey into the soul of ancient Chinese death culture. Not into fear, but into meaning. For now, the incense burns low. The spirits are full. The table is clear. But the story continues. This was the Afterlife Series. I hope you enjoy it.